health in the teams that you represent or have studied. And I also come here as a member of a multilateral development bank. We meet development at the base. So I represent the African Development Bank. What we have seen over the years is we cannot do development devoid of inclusion. So inclusion is at the center of our work program. We started it way back before even COP. Our first 10-year strategy in 2013, before the Paris Agreement, was on inclusion and transitioning Africa towards green growth. Because we knew then that we were not going to do anything around sustainable development if we are not bringing the people along. And we've renewed that. Last year, we had our second 10-year strategy, taking us into 2033, that looks at prosperity, at inclusion, at resilience, and integration. Those four things are the base of the conversation that I think I'll bring to this dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we can. Thank you so much, Davina, Sonia, Carol, Anna, for the inspiring initial words. And what I would say is that indeed we have a huge challenge in multiple dimensions in the world, and talk a bit about the climate challenge as we see at X is that it is also an opportunity for building inclusive development because the climate change will imply technology, so new technologies, new businesses as well. So a new economy, a new world. So, and it's important to be in mind or to bear that if we do not take into consideration or into as a central issue the inclusive, the diversity, the equity agenda, we will just reproduce the problems, the drawbacks that the linear economy and conventional economy has created. So it's really, really, really key that we can have the people at the center of all this discussion. And I also think that the circularity and circular economy is very much integrated, as Felipe has showed, into the climate agenda. And we have like similar challenges with the transformation of the big industries, just as Yara with the fertilizers, but also with the integration of informal but also of SMEs. So we can have this as an opportunity to work on this climate and circular economy together. So, all right. So based on this, I will start asking Anna about the challenge that you've been observing as circular economy has become a strategy at Yara, and how is this process of integrating circularity into your actions, into your project, and what the challenges that you see?
Well, first, it's important to say that bringing people and thinking in a social aspect, as Felipe mentioned, it's very important. And in Yara, we have, especially in Brazil, we have a great opportunity of working with a circular economy locally, I mean, regionally, because as you know, Brazil is huge, and you just can't consider a unique strategy for addressing circular economy. It means that we work with food waste, I mean, in the field. We have some examples. We use some crop waste in the field, like sugarcane, to produce biomethane, to produce nitrogen fertilizer. It means that we can use the same protocol or policy or guidance to use other kind of waste in specific regions in Brazil. We have a different kind of waste in different states, and you can use it. But it's important to say that we can bring people together, because in each of the state, in each of region, we can generate support and more employment rate, and also we can tackling the specific issues in these specific regions. And for us, it's so important to have CBEDs in this in this partnership, because through CBEDs we can connect with other companies, with food companies, and we can connect in all the food chain, because collaboration, working collaboratively, is very important in this aspect. It's almost impossible to tackling this alone without collaboration. So for us, it's important to have those kind of initiatives that connect all the food chain.
Thank you very much, Anna. And uh, based on your experience working with these small farmers and workers, I'd like to jump to Carolina for her to talk with us about the experience of Frijan with SMEs. It's not small farmers or farming workers, but it's workers of medium and small enterprises. And how is Frijan currently supporting these SMEs in the transition towards circular economy?
Okay, let's go. So, as I said, we have 90% of our members that are small and medium-sized companies, mostly small companies, micro companies. Sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people working for that company. So we have a specific program that is directed to those small companies that is called Firjan PEC, from pequeno, that is small in Portuguese. And there are a lot of programs going on, but I can mention two of them that are very important and related to circular economy. One of them is the diagnosis for ESG situation for those companies, where those companies stand in the ESG discussion. So there's a diagnosis of what needs to be done, what needs to be tackled, and for those entrepreneurs to understand what ESG wave is bringing with them. We have done a research last year with around hundreds of companies from Rio de Janeiro, asking them what are they doing and how are they dealing with ESG thematic and challenge. And what we learned is that for small companies, they are not being pushed by the wave of ESG, the first wave, but they are being pushed by their clients. So those companies that procure from those small companies. So that's why yesterday we were talking about circular economy challenges for small and medium-sized companies, and I was sharing with the colleagues that we need to understand that the global companies are the ones who are pushing the small and medium-sized companies to the game, because we were talking here before about public policy, and of course, policies are completely fundamental to the transition to circular economy and to a ESG scenario we want. But the policies, and I will get a word that you said, Victoria, they are still conventional, as are the business are still conventional. So we need to change also the way of modeling the public policy so that those companies that are doing what they are requested to do by their clients can enter the game. Otherwise, they won't. They will necessarily need to be doing the same because the market is the same, so they cannot change. So that's pretty important. And that comes to another program we have that is related to public procurement. So FIRJANPEC has also a program that helps small and medium-sized companies to enter, not medium, but small companies to enter public procurement path. And if public procurement finally gets to introduce circular requirements, and for they to do that, they need to think differently on what procurement does. So procurement cannot be conventional anymore. It needs to be different also. If they get to procure, really, the government procures circular solutions, there are plenty of small, oh my God, there are plenty of small companies that are prepared to introduce their solutions, but they need the market guarantee that their solution will be actually be being procured for those 5, 10, 15 years, because um, they cannot support doing something differently for 6 months and then there's no market anymore and they fail to introduce their circular solutions. So that's what we are doing. We are trying to introduce them in the game, but what we realize is that we need to change the conventional system as a whole.
Thank you so much, Carol. And the continuation of the question was what you would suggest for the Global Circularity Protocol. And it was amazing that you already said, like, yeah, the design of the policy and also considering like the stability of demand for the SMEs, for them to invest in their transformation. Yeah, perfect. And Sonia, so, okay. Um, Then, uh, in your perspective, what is the role of communities in this circular transition? I think you already gave us some hint on this, but how can the participation of communities be enhanced and ensured that the transition can really become inclusive and equitable?
Thank you so much. Well, I think it's very important that in the pursuit of circular economies that we consider how lived experiences of different communities. And here, as a garbologist, sorry, I'll be speaking about waste pickers work, particularly here in Brazil, they collect recyclables rather than household waste. But so it's very important that we consider, the lived experiences of workers in the informal economy, which, their experience are, as we know, are fraught with human rights abuses, with very unsafe working conditions, gender discrimination, and very low incomes. And we have to take this into consideration, particularly this aspect of low incomes. And we need to improve all of this, right? And due diligence processes are very important in the waste industries. Protocols are very important, but we do need to understand that there are few preconditions, for us to really make these protocols make a difference and be more transformative. And I'll, go over some of this. One of the issues, and please don't get me wrong, I think voluntary protocols are very important. Okay, but we need to understand that all of that depends on the willingness of companies, and this sometimes is very hard to come by, right? And in this aspect, I think we need to pay very close attention to the nature of changes in the economy and the nature of changes in society's structures. And if we don't take this into consideration, it's what the Brazilians called doing things for the English to see, which means, just to check, on tick on your checklist. So, to deal with some of these challenges, we need to understand that we need to think things in more transformative ways. And in in doing so, one thing that I was discussing, I don't remember exactly who with yesterday, was about the need to not only have protocols, but also to have a framework for implementation that ensures evaluation and monitoring, but under criteria that is not drafted for, but actually with. And this is, my main point here. Yeah, let's do it together. Wigo is here, and okay, we have just to conclude. We've been working with informal workers in the informal economy. They are part of they are our in our board of directors, but we don't represent them. So at some point, and here's a provocation, we may need to run, a workshop or some kind of consultation which integrates now, particularly now that we have the International Alliance of Waste Speakers that was formally created in Buenos Aires in May, in a Congress of workers. We need to integrate these voices, not only the international waste speakers alliance, but also some regional consultation where we have the Latin America network of waste speakers. In Asia, in India, we have the Indian Alliance, and there are other organizations that are being created to represent regional workers of informal in the informal economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And I hear you on saying, like, how can we guarantee, and as a recommendation, and guarantee the effective participation of these workers, of informal workers. And uh, it's very interesting because here in Brazil, they are very much well organized, as also the secretary mentioned it, and they even developed their own map or atlas or database on waste picking with their own information in terms of the amount of waste that the waste pickers and cooperatives also get each year. So yeah, they are very much empowered, and they need to be recognized in this process as well. So thank you so much for that. But we also know that besides policy, there is another challenge, which is financing. So financing is key for everything, for the change that we need, for climate, for circularity. And Davina, uh, I would like to know for you, for this first round, what are the mechanisms, the financial mechanisms and these instruments that the African Development Bank or other in your ecosystems are developing for the circular transition in Africa and abroad?
Well, thank you so much. Indeed, at the back end of policy is financing. And so let me backtrack a bit how we got into this space as the African Development Bank in financing circular economy. Back in 2019, it's not so far ago, we were invited to the World Circular Economy Forum, and just a Google search of our operations, there was nothing labeled circular economy. We had been doing development for the last 50 years. And that tells a story that how things are mentioned and branded, either crowd in or crowd out capital. So language is also going to be an issue here. And so we didn't know how to finance circular economy. We didn't know these kind of stories because traditionally, as a development bank, you lend to public sector, biggest client. Your second is your big private sector that have well-established footprint in terms of mobilizing capital. That is our traditional base. When it comes to financing SMEs, it becomes very complex. One, there is attention that you don't crowd out the national development banks or the other institutions at the base that are already doing that. But we've also realized that that is not an excuse to not fund SMEs because the bulk of, especially development in the global south or the least developed countries, maybe if I focus there, is that most of whatever business or private sector is done by the informal sector. It's done by startups. It's that base that is underfunded. So they've come around to find other sources of financing that are outside the mainstream, but that's not sustainable. So if we are going to talk sustainable financing, it has to align with the base, with the bulk of where the national businesses are. So what have we done since going to our first World Circular Economy Forum? We created what is called the first circular economy facility. It's called the Africa Circular Economy Facility. Ideally, to understand the business. So it had three pillars. One is to assess and support countries that have national roadmaps. So we're starting with 5 to establish that, because if you can't define it, the work that we're doing here with the protocol, then you have a challenge to finance it. 2 was to start with incubation, start the visibility platform, because as MDBs, we have convening powers. So if we can bring these to the platform, to the visibility levels that are required, then we can move a needle. And so we created a business incubation platform. It's called Afri Circulars, to start with 30 startups, mostly youth, to understand how they do their businesses. Because really the world is changing very fast, that where we sit in the traditional financial sector, it's way past us. So trying to understand what our new client needs, and 2, trying to see how we can bring them and blend finance for them in a way that normally our minimum transaction will be $10 million, very, very minimum. But this is not where the West speaker she's been with art. And those are the ones that are doing your mineral mining. Those are the ones doing your resource extractions. So we need to find financing that speaks to that. This has moved to Brazil is the chair of the G20. The G20 is advocating for a capital adequacy framework, restructuring how MDBs do their business. And that's very important, because if we have the urgency of 2030 for the SDGs, to that, Africa needs, I think, 3 point something trillion to get to the SDG targets by 2030. I can imagine the rest of the developing world. So the number is humongous. The only way we're going to do it is transforming the financial sector. How do we do it? We have the capacity to de-risk. We have, for instance, at the bank, through the UK financing, a facility called Room to Run. What that does, it guarantees our investments in sustainability, and that's why the protocol is important, that then you can look at portfolio and pick out what is sustainable. That is a $2 billion facility that enables the bank to kind of free out its balance sheet to be able to lend more. That is a start. We really are the start. So if we can create platforms, and partnerships become very critical here, that brings this conversation around business councils, around your kind of work, her kind of work on the grassroots to meet the financial sector, that is a de-risking element in itself, because we don't get original stories. We only can finance a bridge because we know how to do that. We've done it 50 years. We know how to finance big business because we've done that all along. But we don't know how to de-risk where the new capital is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Davina. Incredible. And it's very timely because now at the G20, the country platforms was one of the recommendations for greater mobilization of finance for the climate transition. So yes, it's like a forum or a facility that can bring different actors together to mobilize like these innovative financial instruments for delivering the mitigation and adaptation that we need. Thank you so much for that. And now I come back to Anna that mentioned it. Oh no, sorry, Daisy, sorry, because it was Anna before. But as you mentioned, the role of CEBEDS in the work of Yara, I would like you to explore a bit more the how collaboration with these different stakeholders, not only CEBEDS, which represents the private sector, but also with the government and small communities, and how all this collaborative work that Yara has built has supported you in your circular transition, and what are the successes that you can also mention from this strategy that you started to adopt?
Okay. Well, taking CEBEDS as an example, as I mentioned before, it's impossible to do any kind of work based on circularity without collaboration. And CEBEDS provides this connection with different companies, but in the same chain. But also, I'd like to say that it's very important to have a framework in this protocol that considers a good approach on measurement, report, and verification. And MRV solution based on digital solution, it's completely important because even though we have a lot of initiatives, or how can we prove that? How can we measure that? How can we inspiring other people to connect with us? And how can we show them that we are effectively reducing our emissions with these solutions? So it's I don't know exactly we are addressing this, but I'd like to suggest to look at carefully to the digital solutions, and maybe why not startups, and to bring solutions in MRV and creating interoperability. Because as Felipe mentioned before, interoperability is crucial to connect the data from the different parts of the game or of the chain, and we are trying to address this through the startups in Yara, and we are having some success in doing that. Sometimes when you are a big corporation, it's difficult to innovate. It's difficult to create new solutions. And when you connect with startups, you can have this kind of solutions in a good way and fast.
So thank you, Daisy. So you find that like technology deployment can be this driver for further collaboration and improving. Yeah, is
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
okay? Thank you so much. Uh, um, and we need to go for our final thoughts in here. We are running a bit out of time, but I think in your answers you also provided the other perspectives that we wanted to hear from you. Anyhow, I would like to ask each of you. Uh, how do you see, or what is your dream of results of impact from the implementation of the Global Circularity Protocol in each of your areas? And what can you do more to support on this?
very complex, but yeah. Okay. It's like 1 minute answer, kind of. Well, I want to briefly raise something which I made a note here because uh, I think it's very important to have a protocol. As I said, it's having the business environment and having finance for popular cooperatives, finance that takes into consideration climate change, sensitive infrastructure, because if they are circular economy, workers, they need to work take into consideration many aspects. However, I want to make a point that I made yesterday in my input, which is related how we need to do this work in integration with policies, public policies. For me, it's very important. I worked in a city, as a public officer for 10 years, as I said yesterday, and I really think that we need to do things in a bit more integrated ways. And why? Because sometimes you may have a protocol, and it's great, it's a reference. You have business that are committed, and although it's voluntary, they are trying their best. However, you have mayors in our cities, in the global south, that are trying to build their cities, mirroring global north cities. And you have urban regulations that punish, that penalize the work of informal workers in the public spaces. So we will need to put a bit more thought on how we can integrate that, and doing it in ways that also integrate something that is very key for me. I coordinate a gender and waste project in partnership with the National Movement of Waste Speakers of Brazil, and taking a gender lens is also very important. So I just wanted to stay with these final thoughts.
Well, well, the dream. Okay, so my dream is that circular economy doesn't happens because it's the dream of someone. Because we cannot stop and think that if an entrepreneur, and I'm talking entrepreneur because I represent them, uh, will transition to circular economy because it's his dream and it's his emotional ambition, he will not succeed. So we need to change our thinking way, that only because the entrepreneur wants to have a better world and he or she wants to do something differently, he will achieve it because he will go until the end. This is we need to change this romantic view of people who works with environmental and sustainability and circular economy intentions. We need to change that, and this changing of mind needs to be represented in the public policy. So that's why the national strategy, Brazilian national strategy for circular economy, we are very much excited to see what will come now, because it has the chance to be a really to change to create the necessary environment for those people who want to put their innovative solutions to circular economy to happen. They will have the chance now to really, and to have the chance is like, I will give a quick example just to wrap up. For example, we had a member, an entrepreneur, that had a very interesting and very easy solution to the waste of the one specific type of waste of the company. The solution was on the other side of the street with another company, but they both gave up because they couldn't cross the street with the solid waste inside the vehicles they had, because the licensing needed to be from another type of vehicle, and they gave up. So we need to stop. This is like, we need to fast track circular solutions sustainable solutions, and we need not only the entrepreneurs but also us as workers, policymakers. We need to take a little bit of risk because it's different. So let the guy cross the street with the vehicle he has already in order to him to start, and then let's see what happens. But so that's it. The conventional was the word that it connects everything. So we need fast track. We need to let those different solutions happen, to take some risks, and also we need to understand that a lot of circular solutions are already going on, because consumption, the acquisition of products is not the end of the line. Now we have the usage, we have post-usage situations, and people are already reusing, already repurposing, already doing things with the products we put on the market. So let's see what is already happening. So public policy needs also to understand what is happening in order to translate what is happening. Why are people working informally? That's a little bit of this discussion. Why? It's not that we cannot have inform. No, why this is happening? You brought a figure yesterday that shocked me. It's 61% of the workforce. It's a lot. So why? So that we can introduce that in public policies and in the big businesses. Big businesses need to take risks. So sometimes I will not have one supplier anymore for that kind of packaging. I will have 50 because one of them that has an innovative solution cannot fulfill my demand. But I will need to work now with 50 suppliers with a bit different packaging for. So we need to think differently. So that's why. And this is not by the dream. It needs to happen in the business, in the market, in the policies.
Can I break the protocol? This is called the everyday circularities. We need to embrace that in the global south. People are already being circular, you know? And we need to take this into consideration in framing the solutions for the global south. We have workers that are organized into cooperatives. We have workers that are not organized into cooperatives that are also doing a great job. We call them the catadores autônomos, the independent, autonomous. And we need to embrace a model of circular economy that is based on the everyday circularities. Otherwise, we will remain mimicking the global north. Sorry about breaking the protocol. I guess I'm not that sorry.
Okay, I agree with my colleague's point, and I'd like to add the hope that a global policy for circular economy can help us to break the silos, not just among the companies, but also with public sector and all the involved in this target